Hey, come on in. I'm so glad we're doing this. You asked me about Kambo, and I think that's great. There's just so much chatter out there, right? So my goal today as your nurse is to just cut through all that noise. I want to give you a really clear, balanced picture so that you can decide if it's the right thing for you.
And you're coming at this the exact right way, asking all the questions, wanting to be thorough. That's so important. So let's just dive right in and break it all down step by step. We'll start with the biggest, most fundamental question. What is Kambo really?
All right, so when you get right down to it, Kambo is basically the skin secretion, it's kind of waxy, from a very specific frog in the Amazon, the giant monkey frog. And the way it's traditionally used is, well, it's applied to these tiny superficial burns on the skin. People who do this call them gates. And the whole point, right then and there, is to bring on a really powerful purge. This is thought of as a super deep cleanse, for both the body and, well, energetically, too.
Okay, so that's the what. The next big question is, what does it actually feel like? I think it's so important to be prepared. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what a session is like, from start to finish. No surprises.
I love this quote because it just nails it. Think about it. With most medicine we take, feeling sick is a bad side effect, right? Something you want to avoid. But with Kambo, that intense sickness, that's not a side effect. It's the whole point. That's why people call it an ordeal medicine. The whole idea is that by consciously choosing to go through this really tough physical experience, you can spark some really big, profound changes inside. The whole thing actually has a really clear flow. It's pretty predictable. So first thing, right before we'd start, you drink about 1 to 2 liters of water, and that's super important for helping with the purge. Then the Kambo gets applied to those little gates, and man, the effects come on fast, like usually within a minute. It builds up pretty quickly to the purge, which, let's be real, is almost always vomiting. The whole intense part lasts maybe 20, 30 minutes. Then the medicine is wiped off, that intense feeling starts to fade, and your body just shifts into this really important rest and recovery mode.
So, in that intense 20-minute window, what are you actually feeling? Well, it's pretty consistent for most people. You'll almost immediately feel this rush of heat, like a hot flush moving through your chest and head. Your heart rate's going to kick up. Nausea, vomiting, sweating, yeah, those are pretty much a given. It's also really common to get a bit of swelling in your face. Some people call it frog face, but that goes away pretty fast. And here's a key thing. It can drop your blood pressure, which means fainting is a possibility. And that's exactly why being in a safe, supported setting is not just a nice to have, it's absolutely essential.
Okay, this next point is so important to understand because it's a huge misconception. People hear Amazon medicine, and they immediately think of something like ayahuasca, right? A psychedelic. Kambo is not psychedelic. You are not going to have a trip. You won't see visions. Your mind stays incredibly clear and present the whole time. But it is psychoactive. And what that means is that it has these powerful little compounds called peptides that directly affect your brain chemistry. They actually bind to your opioid receptors. And that is the key to how it can have such a big impact on things like your mood, pain levels, and even patterns of addiction.
So, after hearing all that, the purging, the ordeal, you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, why on earth would anyone sign up for this? And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? So let's talk about that now. Let's get into the why, the potential benefits people are looking for when they do this. Now, right after the session, for the next day or two, don't be surprised if you feel, well, pretty wiped out, kind of tired, maybe a little achy. There's a name for this. It's sometimes called a Herxheimer effect. The idea is that your body has just done this massive cleanup, and now it's processing everything that was cleared out. So even though it doesn't feel great in the moment, it's actually seen as a good sign that a really deep process has started.
But once you get through that initial recovery phase, that's when people start to notice the real shifts. The reports are pretty amazing, actually. A lot of people talk about a lasting boost in their mood, just feeling less anxious and more at peace. For people dealing with chronic stuff, many report a big drop in pain and inflammation. And then there's this other common one, this feeling of renewed energy and motivation, like a heavy brain fog has just been lifted and everything is suddenly clearer.
And this isn't just wishful thinking. There's some really fascinating science that backs this up. We can actually point to specific peptides in Kambo and know what they do. We've got ones that are amazing for pain and addiction because they work on our opioid receptors. There's another one, dermaceptin. It's a seriously powerful antimicrobial, great for infections. Then there's phylokinin, which is a vasodilator, which is a fancy way of saying it opens up your blood vessels. And you can imagine how that could have a huge effect on things like circulation and inflammation.
Okay, deep breath. We've arrived at what I think is the single most important part of this conversation. Seriously, As your nurse, your safety is my #1 non-negotiable priority. So we absolutely have to be crystal clear about the risks and the safety measures that have to be in place. No exceptions. And this right here, this might be the most surprising and most crucial thing you'll hear about Kambo safety. You'll see scary headlines calling it a frog poison, but that's not the real danger. The biggest documented risk, the one that has caused the most serious problems, isn't the Kambo itself. It's drinking too much water. It's something called hyponatremia, or water toxicity. And that's why this number, 1 to 2 liters, is so incredibly important. The safety protocol is super specific. You drink that amount right before the Kambo is put on. Not 3 liters, not 4. And you don't sip water all day long leading up to it. That exact amount, at that exact time, is absolutely key.
So here's the thing to remember. The water you drink is there for one reason, to come back up. It's fuel for the purge. The danger zone is when people overhydrate, drinking way too much water before or after, which messes up their whole electrolyte balance, especially sodium. So the rule is to just hydrate normally in the days before and after, and definitely not to be avoiding salt.
And all of this leads to a really important point. Kambo is absolutely not for everybody. A really thorough health screening isn't just a good idea, it's mandatory. There's a list of what we call contraindications, reasons someone should not do Kambo. This includes anyone with serious heart problems, a history of stroke or blood clots, if you've had major surgery or chemo in the last 6 weeks, or if you're pregnant. And because it's so powerful, a history of severe mental illness like psychosis or schizophrenia is also a definite no. All right, for this last part, let's kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture. To really give you a full understanding, I want to touch on a bit more of the science, where this all came from historically, and something that's really important to me, the ethics of how it's all sourced. This is just wild to me. Kambo isn't one thing. It's not a single chemical. It's more like a complex natural pharmacy in a single substance. We're talking about over 100 different bioactive peptides. You can think of them like tiny little keys, and each key fits into a different lock in your body, creating a different response. They're all working together like a symphony in a way that science is really just starting to understand.
And you better believe the pharmaceutical industry has noticed. I mean, there are more than 70 patents out there on synthetic, lab-made versions of these individual peptides. They're trying to turn them into new drugs. But here's the kicker. There have been zero clinical trials on the full natural Kambo secretion in humans. And what does that tell you? It suggests that the real magic isn't in one little piece of it, but in how all those pieces work together, that natural synergy. And that's something that's really, really hard to copy in a lab.
You know, it's funny, even though it's been used for a long time in the Amazon, its journey to the rest of the world is pretty new. The first written account we have is from a missionary way back in 1925. But it took until 1986 for an anthropologist to actually bring a sample back for scientists to look at. And it's important to remember, traditionally it was used as a very practical folk medicine. This whole idea of using it in a big ceremonial way with music and setting intentions, that's really a modern Western thing.
And last but definitely not least is a question I know is on a lot of people's minds. What about the frogs? It's a really important ethical point. And from everything we know from practitioners who work directly with the indigenous tribes, the frogs are treated with a huge amount of respect. They're not harmed. They're handled very gently. The secretion is collected and then they're let go, right back where they were found.
So there you have it. We've gone through what Kambo is, what the experience is actually like, the potential good things that can come from it, and, most importantly, the very real risks and safety rules. Look, my job here isn't to sell you on this or talk you out of it. My only goal was to give you a clear, honest, and solid foundation of knowledge. Now, with all this information, you're in a much better place to decide for yourself if this is a path that you want to explore.